Good evening, colleagues and comrades. I want to welcome you for today's Twitter space in the continuation of the previous engagement, which we had earlier on, as we tried to examine the Uganda's potential organizing economic non-cooperation. We realized that it was prudent to go further to analyze the different actors and the environment in which the non-cooperation is to be organized. In the recent space, we looked at analyzing the potential of Ugandans ourselves, and we are trying to perform a SWOT analysis, our weaknesses, our strengths, our opportunity, the existing opportunities, and the threats that can encounter or can favor or influence the organizing of economic non-cooperation direct actions. Thus, I welcome you for today's space that will ably look at the analysis of the Uganda's oppressor in organizing economic non-cooperation. Our speaker, Comrade Awad, thank you for reaching in time. Today's Twitter space will be co-hosted by Namara Kerea. Hopefully she will be joining us soon. And one of our speakers is here with us, Comrade Awad. And we shall also be waiting Comrade Julius Okoth, as usual, to take us through today's engagement. So we realize that as we said, to organize actions, but we also must make sure that we can perform SWOT analysis on the oppressor or our opponent. We must look at his strengths, the weaknesses, the existing opportunities for oppressor to continue oppressing us or not to be broken by economic non-cooperation, and also the existing threats to the oppressor. So today we are basically analyzing the oppressor. What are the oppressor's strengths? What are his weaknesses? What opportunities are available to him? And what threats are available to the oppressor, most especially around economic non-cooperation. So are there opportunities that even if we organize economic non-cooperation, the oppressor is not affected at the end of the day? Are there threats that have already threatened the oppressor's grip on power even before us organizing the economic non-cooperation? If the threats do exist, now those are opportunities to our side. And if weaknesses exist within the oppressor's group and circles, those are opportunities to us. So we must analyze that. And inside the oppressor's circle, are there strengths the oppressor himself within his circle or his group? Are there strengths that can influence or that can drag our campaign of economic non-cooperation? Or we look at the opportunities that are existing to also enable the oppressor to overcome the economic non-cooperation. I've seen Comrade Julius Okoth is here with us. You're welcome. I've sent you the invite. Comrade Awad, I've sent you the invite. Yeah, I will therefore hand over to today's co-host to take us through. Namara Kereya, you're welcome to take us through, to moderate today's engagement.
Thank you so much, our host. Good evening, comrades. I take this opportunity to welcome everyone, and especially our speakers, Comrade Julius and Comrade Awadi, for this Twitter space. I thank you for always joining and committing your time to teach us and making us learn more about the economic non-cooperation, or generally the non-violent fighting. Today, our topic of discussion is analyzing Uganda's oppressor in organizing economic non-cooperation. As our host had already given a highlight, our speakers are going to continue from there. But before I invite our speakers, I would like to welcome our audience. I welcome Tumusime Edrin, Sab, you're welcome. Comrade Kibirige, you're welcome. The People's Man, you're welcome. Comrade Cynthia, you're also welcome. Comrade Deals Day, you're welcome. As we continue, Comrade Awadi, please, you can accept the invite such that you can get the mic. Yeah, as we wait for Comrade Awadi, Comrade Julius is set, and I would like to welcome you, Comrade Julius, to introduce yourself and also give your view on today's topic of discussion. You're welcome, Comrade Julius.
Thank you very much, comrade, for inviting me for this in this forum about analyzing Uganda's oppressor in organizing economic and corporations. For those who don't know me, my names are Julius Okoth. I am a Kenyan social justice activist, and my niche in activism is about tax justice and labor rights. I also do trainings, especially on the grassroots. I train on the issue of nonviolent actions. So on today's topics of analyzing Uganda's oppressor in organizing economic and corporations, uh, first we need to ask ourselves who are the oppressors in Uganda? Because there's a time, I think 2 weeks ago, uh, there's a comrade who talked about a SWOT analysis. I think for the last few weeks we have discussed about our strengths and our weaknesses. So for now, we are trying to do analysis of the oppressor. Who are the oppressor? We need to identify them. We need to identify them. So we need to identify so that we can understand who are oppressors. You know, an oppressor, you cannot attack what you don't see. We attack what you see. Because most of the time that most of activists, always when they're doing the activism, they do always shadow boxing. You cannot shoot at the forest. You cannot just shadow box. When you're shadow boxing, you waste a lot of energy and a lot of calories when you're shadow boxing. So to avoid shadow boxing, we need to analyze who are the oppressors because we all know that we've got only one oppressor who is the president, but that oppressor has some pillars that keep on holding that oppressor. Because for example, um, you cannot win a war by attacking one oppressor. For example, Museveni. You see, when you're abusing Museveni, you're doing such complex things. You're not threatening Museveni at all, at all, at all. The way, although I like her sometimes, but sometimes she always go overboard. The way her name is this Ugandan activist called this doctor. I've forgotten her name. From Makerere, she used to teach at Makerere University. That she used to always to abuse Museveni and such kind of things. Those are the things that are not threatening the regime. The regime is always threatened when you are attacking the pillars that are holding them. So the main theme of today's is to identify the pillars that hold the oppressor. So the question is, do we have power to identify. This is like power analysis. And can we identify the pillars that holds the regime? Because we have only an oppressor. So who are the pillars that holds the oppressor? Because oppressor does not operate in a vacuum. So at times when we are doing activism, when we are trying to analyze, when we are doing a power analysis, we need to identify them. Because this oppressor is at the top. So there are some pillars that are holding that oppressor. So those are the oppressors that we need to do an analysis of them. Are they the elite? If they're the elite, who are the elite? Are they businessmen? If they're businessmen, who are those businessmen? If they're multinationals, if they're those multinationals and corporations, which are those multinationals and corporations? If they're member of parliament, who are those member of parliament? If it's army, if it is judiciary, so those are the pillars that we need to do some analysis, and especially in terms of economic cooperation. Because today I saw that flyer that talks about non-cooperation direct action. You see, when you're talking about direct action, there are two kind of direct action. Direct action we do directly. There is high risk direct action and low risk direct action. Most of the time, when you're organizing economic and cooperation, most of the times are low risk kind of direct action. But high risk kind of direct action, are we able to identify if you are doing direct action? You see, direct action is between the oppressor and yourself, and you are doing something direct. It's like holding a cow by its horn. That's what to call direct action. But most of the time, economic and cooperation is about low risk direct action, like boycotting some products or even doing some defiance. So when you're talking about organizing economic and cooperation, it's most of the time it's about because it's about low risk direct action. It's about boycotts and such kind of things. So most of the time we don't. Uh, Most of the times there's no direct action because maybe when you're doing direct action, it's maybe when we're approaching these multinational companies. We are saying that today we are doing maybe we are standing at the gate of a certain company. Those are what that we call direct action. You're saying that there's no product that will come out of this from the gate of this company, take it to the market. So those are the ones that we call direct action. So we are going to, you see, to make sure that there's no economic activity that's going on. We do it physically, we do it with our bodies. You see, like for example, this is a company, maybe this, for example, company that is doing oil exploration and oil exploration and exploitation. We are saying that you'll no longer do it here. People are coming with their bodies and saying that physically they'll not do it. So the question that we need to ask ourselves is that are we able to do that? This is the question that we need to ask ourselves. So before we do that, we need to analyze which are the pillars that are holding oppressor. So those are very important questions we need to ask ourselves. So that's the way of analyzing them. That's what we do. That is what we call a power analysis. Because these pillars are holding an oppressor. Oppressor is very comfortable when those pillars are there. Yeah. Yeah. I forgot. I have not remembered the name of that activist called Stella Nyanzi. If you do critique of what the style of the way Stella Nyanzi are doing activism, it's just attacking an oppressor. You see, maybe you are insulting an oppressor, it doesn't threaten an oppressor in any way. So if at all we attack the pillars that holds that oppressor, that hold that oppressor, that hold that regime, that's the time that a regime can get threatened, because it can be threatened to the core. So we need to analyze to analyze the pillars that holds the oppressor, because we cannot analyze just the oppressor without considering the pillars that hold that oppressor. So we need to identify them, and we come with their names and even come with the numbers of pillars that are holding the oppressor. So that is the most important thing. So we need to analyze them. For example, there's a time that we mentioned about Total that is doing some things in the area of Hoima and such kind of things. So we need to analyze them step by step, step by step. What makes these companies to stay in Uganda? Those are the things that we need to analyze. So and after analyzing them, then you shall know how to attack them. You cannot attack something that you don't know. So we need to do analysis of these pillars that holds an oppressor, and a critical analysis. So when we're doing a critical analysis, we can understand them. It is like when you're trying to kill a crocodile or a snake, you cannot just kill a crocodile. You need to understand where is the soft spot of this crocodile, because the crocodile at the back is very hard, but under the belly is very soft. So issue of analyzing is to know where their weak spots, where the weak spots are, and so that when you attack, we know what you're attacking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Julius, for that great insight about analyzing our oppressor. One of the key highlights were we need to first identify and understand our oppressor. And then the most important is to also find out the pillars that are holding that oppressor in power. That has been a great insight, Comrade Julius. I don't know whether Comrade Howard is able to get the mic. Maybe the host can assist us such that our next speaker gets the mic. As Comrade Howard is joining us, I would like to request Comrade Julius to highlight and give a light on the ways we can identify most of those oppressors, because most of them, they hide, leave alone these companies that are sponsoring the oppression, leave alone the police or the security agencies that are keeping the dictator in power. Some of them we can easily identify them, but some of them are can I say they're in the background? What are some of the ways we can use to clearly identify most of them? Because they must be not be a few, there must be many. How exactly can we identify those pillars that keep the oppressor in power?
In identifying those pillars, we need to ask ourselves, how do these corporations survive in this kind of a regime? There are so many.
Thank you, Mr. Julius. Yeah, you're always spot on when it comes to analyzing the oppressor and how really it affects the implementation or the execution of economic non-cooperation. Let me start from the tail end of your submission, just to put a few things clear. The reason why people like Stella Nyazi are throwing stones at people like the president, it's because the president has created a feeling that he's untouchable. The moment you say something about him, you are in trouble. So Dr. Stella's attack is a demystification. By the time people are going to face off with the other pillars, at least they what the pillars are holding are not that, strong enough. I think that is her way of doing things. It is just like you see, we all have different approaches in handling a problem or a challenge. So for her, she finds it that she can do it through writing. Because if now you write about somebody maybe like who's a small man, I take them as small men, somebody who's like heading the police force or the army commander, maybe you write something, you say, this one is cheap. But when you touch the president, I think everybody tries to be attentive. The other time I tried to talk about a few things that one of the politicians who wanted to stand for presidency in Uganda by names of Dr. Agre Kiyingi had tried to, identify a few of those uh, businesses that could be targeted in order to weaken the regime uh, in terms of economic non-cooperation. I think this is a homework that everybody who is a
Comrade Dawadi, you're breaking.
proponent of non-economic non-cooperation to do and follow it up or something we can actually use in the near future by happening. Okay.
We can.
Yeah, I was just saying that recently we talked about the exportation of Latin American.
It seems we've lost Comrade Dawadi. I think I pray he's able to join us again. As we wait for Comrade Dawadi, I would like to request Comrade Julius to go on with his submission.
Yeah, thank you. What I was saying earlier is that organizing economic and cooperation is part of civil resistance. It's part of resisting. So when I was saying that, and let me clarify about that, what I was saying that Stella Nyanzi is doing a great job. But when we're doing organizing economic and cooperation, this is a war. It's a war that we don't have. The only thing that we don't use is only weapons, but it is war. It's a war. It's like, for example, in a guerrilla warfare, you see, when you want to make your opponent angry, you come and bring down the bridges, bridges that connect like for example, what's happening now in Ukraine. You see that they are burning up bridges, they're destroying bridges. They're not killing people, but they're destroying bridges because they know that these bridges are the pillars that feeds a certain country. So when you're talking about pillars, you cannot be saying that, oh, you are my enemy. Those are lamentation. Lamentation is different from, lamenting. Lamenting is like there's a Swahili word in Swahili. I think the Swahili saying that says that sauti ya ng'ombe, sauti ya chura hazui ng'ombe kunywa, that the cries of a frog cannot make a cow not to drink water. So that's the difference. Cows will just come at the river and drink water, and the frog will continue making noise, but will not change the attitude of the cow of drinking water. Cow starts drinking water, and that's the kind of activism that Stella Nyanzi is doing, is that making noise, but the cow is still drinking water. So when you're talking about attacking what is feeding the ogre, which is some multinational corporations and some few individuals, and this is to attack those corporations. That's the way you can deal with the oppressor. Oppressor, you can, here in Kenya we had a president who was called Mwai Kibaki. He ruled between the year 2002 and 2000 and I think it was 2022 to 2010. He used to tell us, if you want to make noise, he gave us a lot of freedom. You can make noise, you can abuse him the way you want, but he'll never change anything. But if at all you're just to attack the businessmen, elite, that's when you really touch the nerves of those people. So what I'm talking about is that we need to an oppressor, you need to touch the nerve, the nerve of what is feeding the ogre. And what's feeding the ogre? There are elite, there are multinationals, there are some few individuals and businessmen. So those are the things that we need to look at. And how do we deal with them? We deal with them, by by analyzing those companies. What are they doing? In those companies, those multinational companies, who are the shareholders of those companies? Who are the directors? Where do they sell their products? Is it local? Is it international? So those are the things. So when you are trying to attack, like they were said earlier, that we need to look at the soft spot, where the soft spot these companies are. You see, when you know where the soft spots are, it's easier for us to attack them. So, for example, the easier way is to when you say that we will not buy their product, or not we don't need their services, that's the time that will touch their nerves, because those companies survive by what we give them, because they survive by what we give them. So the most important thing is to look at the companies, to look at multinationals and individuals. And if you want to know them, and if you want to know those look at during the time of campaigns, when politicians, especially the oppressor, want to do this. So sometimes they pretend that they do fundraising for their campaigns. Just look at companies or individuals that are going to those fundraising events. They can go to these big hotels and say that one plate of for dinner cost about $300, $500. You wonder, why is somebody buying just a mere plate for $500? So it means that that person has got interest. So that's the first way of analyzing, of knowing people who support an oppressor. Those are the pillars. Knowing them. Then secondly, you know them by, you see, integrity. You find that some companies even don't pay taxes, and the government is not doing anything, either to arrest them or do anything. So those are the areas that you'll start to understand. These are the people. Why are they given special preferences? This company is not doing this, and the government is not doing anything. They are going against the law. The government is not doing anything. So it shows you that there must be there is a correlation between this company and the oppressor. So those are the ways of analyzing them and knowing that these are the people that are feeding the ogre. Are feeding the ogre, and it's the responsibility of us as citizenry to do research. And I've been talking about the data collection. We collect data, and we know these companies. These are the ones that what makes these companies survive in this country. We look at those things. Which year did this company came? Who are directors of these companies? How do they survive? Sometimes, I don't know whether Uganda is like Kenya, because Kenya is like a corporate nation. Kenya is being ruled by it's a corporate world, starting from, water, health sector, education, everything has been privatized, and you see public services as deteriorated completely. If you go to public school, there's nothing there. There's totally nothing, but private sector are really are really are really doing well. So the question is to ask yourself, are these private sector doing very well in this bad economy? Why are they doing very well? So those are the things that how are they doing very well? There's a company that's doing very well in Avi, and yet the economy is not good. So there must be something they are doing very bad, and yet the company, the regime is keeping them, because politics is being managed by, nobody's cheaters. That politics are being controlled by business people and corporates. It's not about going to elections or going to elections are just formalities. But the corporates that decide who will be the president, who will be something like this, of that manner, because they're the ones who also sponsor a member of parliament to go to parliament to come up with certain legislation or acts of parliament for their interest. So we need to identify those companies, because those companies are even sponsoring a member of parliament to go to parliament. Why? What is their interest? So when you're going even to vote, voting is just formalities, just to massage our egos. But companies decides for us. So it's high time that citizens has to know that your vote does not count. It's the vote of it's only multinationals and some few individuals who decides who will be our president, who will be our member of parliament, or will be a minister. Because even a president does not decide. To become a minister in a certain country, it's corporate that tells a president, because we made you a president. So Mr. So and so to be minister of this, to be minister of trade, to be minister of certain different ministries. So those are the things that we need to understand. Analyzing those companies. So we need to analyze them very much, because if you don't analyze those companies, and if you look very carefully, those companies are not many, and you'll see that most of them are multinationals. Local companies don't do much. They don't do much. Just multinational companies are the ones that controls us. So they control parliament, they control judiciary. They even decide who will be the chief justice of parliament. They decide who will be the speaker. So they've got powers that cannot be seen. The way I said the other time that they are just like predators. A predator cannot see a predator unless you put yourself in the mud. If you have seen that movie, Schwarzenegger. So we need ourselves also to immerse ourselves in a pool of mud, so that you can understand who these predators are, because most of us don't know that the role that multinationals are playing in deciding our politics, where our politics are going. So, and by dealing with them, is just to boycott their products. You see, and by boycotting their products, they'll give us some respect. That's the way. That's the way out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Julius, for that great submission. I would like to welcome our listeners. I welcome Comrade Grace, Comrade Ivan, you're welcome, and Comrade LM Prezo, you're also welcome. We lost our speaker, Comrade Awadi. He will be joining us as we go on. I would also like to inform our audience that we are prepare our questions to the speakers, or if you have any submission, we shall give you a mic and you present. Comrade Julius talked about mostly the pillars that keep the oppressor in power, or the oppressor, the people the oppressor has depended on to keep oppressing Ugandans. He has highlighted how they have sponsored Oppression and some of the non-cooperation acts we can use to also attack them. Comrade Julius, we also like to get a more highlight on how all those multinational companies have kept the oppressor in power. Apart from in which ways have they kept the oppressor in power? We would like to also learn more about that.
Thank you. For example, Uganda has got a lot of natural resources, and recently there was a discovery of, I don't know whether it's gas or oil in near Lake Albert. There are such kind of things. So we need to ask ourselves, how do these companies get those licenses of oil exploration and exploitation? Those are the things that we need to ask ourselves, because already Uganda is divided into blocks, and most of people don't know that it's divided into blocks with the different companies. You'll find that Shell is given a certain area where they can do oil exploitation and exploration. Total is given such kind of areas. So when these investors, we call them direct investors, the investors are coming. These investors, when they are coming, there's so many things that they do. People just come from outside and start to invest in a country. There are so many things that is put into consideration when becoming to invest in a country. So, for example, of this oil exploitation and gas and the exploration of those kind of things, we need to ask ourselves, because even what's happening now in the area of Karamoja, people might just think it's just a normal cattle rustling, that people are stealing, that the Karamoja people maybe are just people who are living in a updated society. No, people have discovered already the area is divided into blocks. Already there is the natural gas, there is oil, uh, uh, such kind of things. So you see, the government just come up with the issues of that there's a lot of cattle rustling, to displace people. So when they're displacing people, these companies are given area where they can exploit and do oil exploration. So, and they cannot do it without the blessing of the government, because they're the one who makes this government where the government is. So it's for us now. That's the reason why in civil resistance we need to have some skills and knowledge. We cannot go to these things without having knowledge and skills to understand when these companies are coming to Uganda. We need to understand who are the shareholders and what is their interest. So for them to be there, for them to be in Uganda, they have to keep the regime alive, because when this regime is not there, they also not survive. So they have to feed this regime. And how do they do it? For example, if you do a research maybe in a registry of company in Uganda, you realize uh, that when an investor comes, maybe an investor in multinational want to invest in Uganda, um, they can say, I don't know for sure, but it happens in Kenya that a local must have a certain percentage of shares in that company. So, like even for example, you see that Total is in Uganda. There's a Ugandan, a local Ugandan who has a share within that company. If it's a shell, there's a Ugandan who have a share in that share, a certain percentage, maybe 30%, 20%. And if you look carefully at those shareholders, there's the same people who are in the government. They're the same people in the government. So we need to do analysis. We need to know those companies, and that's the reason why analyzing pillars that hold it's not an easy thing. It can take time, and this needs some skills in how to do data collection. We need to analyze, because we cannot do these things because Museveni is not by himself. Museveni is not by himself. Because by the time you see all the time that Museveni is doing campaign, have you realized how much he spent? How much he spent in going and giving people money, doing such kind of thing? Have you ever asked yourself Where do politicians get money? And they usually get money during campaigns time. It's these same people who give them money. Like for example, I remember here in Kenya, there's a British company called British American Tobacco. British American Tobacco, they, there was a time they also they manipulated our parliament, because the parliament wanted to come with a legislation about how to control tobacco. But you see, they bought all MPs, they took them to Mombasa, they took them to good hotels and changed their mind. You see, these people have power, and we need to understand them. You see, when you have because most of even legislation that's in parliament, it's not a pro people legislation that member of parliament take to parliament. You realize that when there's some changes, amendments in act of parliament, it's also done for the interest of a certain individuals, not for the sake of the people. You'll never realize that. You'll never know that. You'll never see an MP going to his constituent that what is your problem here? No. Anytime that you see an MP is in parliament, will come up with a legislation, a new legislation, or amendment of a law. You realize that amendment or new legislation is for the benefit of a certain company. Then that MP realizes that that MP has been paid by managing director of a certain company. It doesn't matter whether that managing director is from in industrial company, or agriculture or anything, something like that. And that's the reason why you'll see most MPs are always in urban areas, and most of the time we'll find them in big hotels. Have you ever realized? Have you ever asked yourself why are always these MPs with some funny characters in these big hotels? You see, like if you go to Golden Tulip, you'll find an MP there, with a certain person, And if you dig deeper, you realize those are managing directors or shareholders of certain companies. So if they want to push a certain agenda for the benefit of those multinational companies, it doesn't matter whether it's in agriculture, it doesn't matter whether, for example, just recently in Kenya, there was a time that during Uru's time, they banned genetically modified organic, this GMO. But those companies, Monsanto, just use some MPs to come out also and lift the GMO. Now the GMO has been introduced here right now here in Kenya. And you realize that so many MPs are not talking about it because they've been given something. So you realize those are the same companies. And Monsanto is giving us a lot of problems, And that's the reason why we as activists, we are trying to come up with a campaign of naming and shaming the Monsanto, because Monsanto is using our MPs, member of parliament, to lift the ban on genetically modified organism, GMO, which is very harmful to our health. So companies are using our member of parliament. Companies are the ones that are pillars that are holding oppression. That's the way it is, and people. That's the truth that's the truth of the matter. That's the truth of the matter. So if you look up very carefully, when there is any amendment in parliament, or a change in or any new act or legislation is coming, just look at the MP. Just look at that MP. Where does that MP come from? And just do a research. You realize that he's working for a certain multinationals, for the benefit of that multinationals. So most of the time, there's no MP, member of parliament, or even a minister, or even a president is working for the benefit of ordinary citizens. And that's the reason why citizens must be extra vigilant and to know this member of parliament, this president, who most of the time, whom are they meeting? And the reason is that when these people are going to even outside the country, you see that people are going to Dubai, people are going to Europe. These people always go and meet investors. Nobody should cheat you that these people go and meet the president and all that talking about politics. They always go and meet the investors to talk about, come and invest in our country. This is what we do. This is what we do. And always investors have conditions when they come and want to invest in your country. They have conditions. And these conditions you must have to fulfill because they're the one who feeds you. The one who feeds you controls you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our speaker, for that great submission. We continuously understand the power, how the oppressor keeps his power. and how he has used the people surrounding him to keep oppressing Ugandans. And Ugandans also, as Comrade Julius has been saying, we need to identify those power pillars that have kept the dictator in power or the oppressor. And Comrade Julius has highlighted some of the non-cooperation acts we can use as Ugandans to weaken that power surrounding the oppressor, and also how we can identify those individuals or those companies that are continuously keeping the oppressor in power. And those are the strengths that the oppressor has. And also, this Twitter space will bring us some knowledge on how we can keep weakening those powers the oppressor has.